This podcast has been brought to you by Voyager's World. We are building the most amazing hospitality network. Please visit our website, join us for free, and start participating.
Very well. I have here Scott Brills. Scott is actually a pretty cool guy that I think I know a little bit, but I don't really know because we never met in person. He's the kind of guy that every time you talk to him, you need to ask where he is. And every time the answer is usually a different country, sometimes a different continent. The guy is really tough to find on the map if you don't keep talking to him. Travels a lot and does a lot. So Scott, welcome to Voyager's World. Welcome to our podcast, and we want to learn something from you today.
Yeah, tables are turned as of what was that, 2 or 3 years ago when I and my friend interviewed you.
Yeah, I'm going to put a copy of that interview somewhere on my on the channel, and I'll put a link right here. So if you are watching the video, now you can see the link. That was a very cool interview. I like it. I felt it was quite casual, and we talked a lot about lifestyle design and adventure. The name of the thing was Adventure Matrix, correct?
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Tell me about what you're doing, man. What are your projects and what is going on in your life now?
Well, since that time, had the podcast, and then the podcast went away, which I think I'll write about at some point. But good experiment, and yeah, ever since then I've just continued doing what I was doing before, which is traveling more or less full time, so 9, 10 months out of the year. Don't have a home base, don't pay rent anywhere. I basically travel Airbnb to hotel to a couch, and spend every year doing about 30 countries on average per year. A lot of them are places I've hit before, but I try to include a few new ones every year. And this will be the fifth full year that I've been traveling full time. But even before then, I was traveling at least 2 to 3, sometimes upwards of 6 months out of the year for the past over a decade. So um, while I travel, I work, and so it's not all fun and games, but it's mostly fun and games because I my hobby is travel, and so any of the money I get, I generally invest it right back into travel or into my companies. And right now, actually still working on the same stuff that I was working on when I talked with you. Slight changes. I mean, I'm still working on safari company in Africa, in Tanzania, where we do custom private safaris for people. I've got a partner on the ground over there, and he takes care of the ground stuff, and I take care of the business management stuff, the website, customer interaction, sales, etc. And that's Pamoja Safaris, Pamoja. And then I had a web development company that I started in 2002. When I was last talking with you, I actually shut down that company, tried to get out of the web development game, and then it pulled me right back in again. So then last year, I started up a company with my younger brother who got into the web development field, and he had a few years of experience. He wasn't into the corporate thing or working for another company, which he's still doing, but he's going to transition this year into doing more of a uh, not freelance, but kind of working on our own company, making WordPress high-end WordPress sites. And so together, those two companies keeps me busy, and then the travel takes up the rest of my time, and I'm happy. It's an awesome life.
There are people that are freelancers and they some of them travel, uh, but I guess there is a growing category that is somewhere in between. It's people that they travel full time, but they run their own business. They don't operate just as freelancers getting gigs to do, but they develop a strategy, they develop something, and I don't know if there is a word for that yet, which would be somewhere around travel entrepreneur or traveling
I don't know.
I guess.
Yeah, like a nomadic entrepreneur, location independent entrepreneur. Like there's a few words for it, and I know hundreds of people doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know a bunch of people that are like that, and very gradually I became that as well. But I got the impression that you have more experience. You got on that earlier, and also you had a better business background than I had at the point that you started. Uh, I
I
start.
mean, I don't know about right when I started. I learned a lot of stuff by screwing up basically, and
Well, that's how you learn most of the stuff. It's by fucking up first, and then we get it right. Um, yeah, yes, I feel that. I feel that in my life. I feel that it's getting to the point where things are happening easier, where I put an idea together. I don't need to spend too much energy. I just need to get it correct based on the things that I learned, and people join in. They participate. They volunteer. They associate with me, and when necessary, I'm finding money to do things. So it's not being as nearly as difficult as it was just a few years back.
oh yeah,
Also, yeah.
when I
Also,
started, it was it was a
yeah.
bit difficult. People aren't
Al-
really used to
yeah.
it.
Also, the market is the people in general. The people that are online, they are getting used to the idea of crowdfunding this and associating to do that and raising
Never
money
meeting
for
somebody,
something
but doing
else.
business with them.
Exactly. So the I think that when you approach people today with an idea, you don't need to spend so much time explaining what it
Mm.
is or what is the format that you are trying to work it out.
Right. And I spent a lot of time doing that in the first quite a few years. Lots of explanations.
Exactly. So now you have those things already in their mind, so it's much easier to to get to that point. Uh, so you're doing a safari thing, you said. Tell me a little more about that.
In 2010, I went to Tanzania, which was my first stop in Africa ever, with my father, who wanted to do a safari. It was on his bucket list for a long time, and he took me along with him. And we did like a 2.5 week trip and did all the normal safari stuff in Tanzania. We saw the Serengeti and Ngorongoro Crater, had a great time, saw lots of animals. And we had three guides, and I got along pretty well with one in particular. And basically, he helped me after the trip. I stayed on another couple of weeks. I did a week in Zanzibar, and then I did a week climbing Kilimanjaro. And he helped me out at a few different places. I ended up going over to his house and having dinner and meeting his family. And um, I asked him, a day or two before I left, I said, "Hey, have you ever thought about starting up your own company?" And from there on, I basically just proposed, "Hey, let's try it out. It won't be a lot of capital. We'll try it out, see how it goes. You do everything on the ground. I do my thing, which is like business development, startup, sales, and marketing. And we'll see. Like I know your target market, and you obviously know the safari part of things. You've been doing it for 15 years. And next year in 2011, we incorporated in Tanzania, and ever since then, we've been doing our best to grow it and sell and provide an amazing experience for people that do a safari. Many of them is just a one-time thing. It's a bucket list item, and so we try to like make it amazing.
Yes, I have a couple questions for you. One is that I have the impression that a lot of people have something like that in mind. Like they think of safari like, okay, I'll go to Africa, I want to drive a Jeep, running after, lions and, and but how much of that market is hunting? And because a lot of people go there to hunt. I would like to go, but I would like to bow hunt. So to me, it would be if I was to call you today, hey Scott, set it up for me. I would say that I want half of the focus of it to be bow hunting, but
Hmm.
which means that I will have to learn to do that thing first because I'm a zero. So I have to, but I have a good friend in Florida that he's an expert and he's going to teach me. So he's going to teach me the all the mechanics and the technique, and I would practice for a few months and hunt a little before I go to Africa. I'm not going to arrive in Africa and take a brand new bow out of the box and read the instructions.
Yeah, that might be a big waste of money because hunting safaris are known to be extremely expensive. I mean, we're talking 50 grand for an antelope. And they do this because that money goes towards improving the conservation of the animals that are endangered, such as rhinos,
Yeah,
elephants.
so I
Uh,
heard. Yes,
yeah, and so I should specify that our company is a photo safari company. I'm still working on mentioning this to people because in my mind it's just natural, like, oh, safari. And I make the distinction when someone says a hunting safari. But a lot of people just assume that's hunting. So what we do is we do strictly photographic safaris. There are hunting safaris. We have partners that do hunting safaris that we could send people to, but it's more of a thing in places like Kenya, South Sudan, less of a thing in Tanzania. There are some parks in the south that do it, but it's very expensive. Like I said, 50 grand. There's high fees to get the permit. Depending on the type of animal, they set a price, and you're allowed, one per person or whatnot. You kill it, they bring it back. You can do the taxidermy, you can cut out for meat, etc. But it's very strictly regulated, very expensive, and that's why when you see pictures of it, it's always politicians or rich people that are doing it.
So
Uh,
in other words, it's going to be a lot cheaper to go hunt in Alaska or
yes.
or anywhere in America, pretty much, because you can go. Yeah, you can go to a nice, a nice private park, which is big enough that you are never going to see the fences, and and you can hunt there and for a couple $1,000. So if it
Yeah,
is
you told me
hunting,
there's a lot of places in Texas actually that do
yeah,
that, and they've
yeah.
got game from Africa that they bring into their private park,
Uh-huh.
and they charge for hunting there.
Yeah, I was listening to another podcast a few days ago where they were talking about the situation in different states. There are some states in America where the population of bear is going growing too high. So they are easing on the licenses and letting people hunt more bear. And there are places where they really remove in practice they remove the limits on hunting deer, because deer is becoming a how do you call it when you have too much of an animal?
Nuisance.
It's a nuisance. Yeah, a lot of accidents. We are encroaching on their territory, but also their quantity is in some states is higher than ever, probably.
Michigan is one of them where I
Yeah.
where I have my, I guess you could call it a home base.
Uh-huh. That's where
I
you
mean,
get. That's where you
I've
get
hit
your
deer
mail.
before.
That's what you mean.
I've hit deer. I've known many people that have hit deer. Because you're just on the freeway. I mean, one time it's 4 in the morning. I'm driving back. I'm tired. All of a sudden, there's three deer in the middle of the freeway, and I think I hit all three of them. Destroyed my car. Of course, I was luckily okay. But it's like you said, it's their territory. It's our territory. But the numbers can get too high. And so when that happens, it's actually not good for humans or for deer because a lot more deer competing over the same resources.
Yes, and someone was telling that in some parks in California, to reduce the population of elk and some other animals, they brought in wolves, because the wolves used to be native to that area and they got extinct. But the same kind of wolf was still found in some other states. So they
Right.
brought some in and took care of them, and when and they protect those wolves. So when that population of wolf went up, it reduced the population of deer and regulated the population of bear. It's something amazing that the that are people that understand this thing very well, and they estimate what are the proper quantities for hunting in each area. and,
Right.
and and that is done with science, not with opinion, and it's usually very well done. Uh,
Yeah. We
yeah.
try our best. I mean, generally Mother Nature would regulate everything just fine if we were around, but we have to
That's
balance it with the fact that humans are here.
exactly, exactly. But I'm very curious about Africa. I've never been to Africa, and 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 I'm getting increasingly curious. And I'll tell you the main reason is because in 2011, when I came to Europe the first time, I was very sure that I didn't want to visit Eastern Europe. I thought that it was going to be confusing and poor and fucked up, and I was going to hate it. And in the reality, it was confusing and poor and fucked up, and I love it. As the more I travel in Eastern Europe, the more I like it. So my thinking is, if I was so wrong about Eastern Europe, can I also be wrong about Africa? Can I be wrong about Asia? Perhaps I am. So now I'm going, even when I think that I will not like a country or that I'll not like a region, I'll go at least once to
Yeah,
check it
yeah,
out
yeah.
because
Form your own opinion.
exactly to form my own opinion, not based on what I see on TV or on Facebook, right? So and because I have some friends that are from Tanzania or have been there, and now there's you there. I would say that would be probably a good place to start. Go to
Yeah, yeah.
go
It's
to
a good a spot as any. I mean, like it's been ranked consistently the best place to do a safari in all of Africa. And I've been there many times. I've also been to all the countries of Eastern Africa besides Mozambique, and I've been to South Africa. I've been to all of the major countries where you do a safari, and I mean, yeah, I'm biased because I've got a company in Tanzania, but I can honestly say that it's the best spot.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm in. I'll be there at some point.
Let me know.
Maybe maybe with a brand new bow and arrow. Who knows? Still with the tag from Target.
Shooting yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so, how did you get to to what you're doing now? Because I bet. Let me ask you the two questions that people always ask, and it's very nice to have it on video one day. One is, how did you get to do what you're doing today? So, how did you progress into it? And second, when you tell, well, I travel this place and I go to that place, people always ask, how do you pay for this? So explain to us, how do you pay for this?
I'll start with your first question. Was lucky enough to realize pretty early on that I didn't want to work at a desk in a company. It took a while for that to actually become a reality as far as I knew that that was doable. But I think pretty soon after I watched the movie Office Space, I realized that my dreams of becoming a programmer or a video game developer or something like that, I was like, maybe not. And I was still kind of teetering through all of college while I was starting my company. I started in 2002. I was a couple years into college, and I continued doing it throughout university. I got my degree, and then by that time, I'd say 2005, it was going decent enough to provide me with enough money to travel a few months out of the year and also provide for what I needed at home. And so I thought, okay, well, this is 3 or 4 years after I started the company. Well, now might as well just go along with it and see where it takes me. So that's what I did. This is my web development company, and it just became better and better. I learned more and more. I made more mistakes. I learned from them. I got more money. I was able to be more independent. The more money and the more experience I had, and so I just kept doing that. And with more money came more travel, and I just kind of segued into what I'm doing now, which is traveling most of the time and working on the road also most of the time. And I've got my laptop. As long as I have my laptop, my phone, and internet connection, I can work from anywhere. And there's a lot of places that are better to work from than others. Like I found that Ethiopia is a pretty crappy place to work from because of the internet. Myanmar, although I love Myanmar, is a really crappy place to work because of the internet. But I just try to balance it out. I'll go to those places for a week or so and just enjoy a little bit of downtime. But most of the time, I have to be somewhere where it's decent, like Bangkok or Tokyo or a lot of places in Europe.
By the way, let me mention this because sometimes people in America ask me about it. The internet in places like Ukraine and Bulgaria is fantastic.
Fast,
It's
fast. Yeah.
fast and cheap. I spent 6 weeks in Bulgaria last year, and I had not last year, the year before, and I had super fast internet for something like $10 a month. On where I am right now in Ukraine, uh, they just include that with the apartment. Like I pay a certain amount for the apartment, and it's with heating and lights and water and internet. It's so cheap that they don't even charge you for that. And even the cell service, I have like 3G with like everything, unlimited internet and social media and all that, and I pay something like $6 a month for to keep my iPhone working here. $6 a month. I know that I'll get back to USA to be like 40 at least. Uh, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's something like that with some data. Yeah, with some data. Uh, so internet and mobile service in Eastern Europe is incredible, and really cheap. Um, so you're explaining that you need good internet wherever you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's if I want to actually be based in a place and get work done, then yeah. I mean, I do a lot of travel for travel's sake. I go to new countries. I like exploring spots that don't have internet as well. But every once in a while, I have to take a chunk of time and be like, okay, I'm going to sit down and get some work done this week. Uh, and so, yeah, for those times, it's a lot less frustrating to be somewhere with a little bit more developed infrastructure.
What percentage do you think you do today? Like between well, first let me explain. Sometimes it's hard to say what percentage is work because some of the work we do is really freaking funny, and we don't mind. Like I do comedy too. As a one of the things that I do is I go to clubs and I do comedy, and I'm becoming a professional now, because they someone paid me $100 one day to do that. so so I'm professional. But it is work in the sense that I need to organize, schedule, talk to people. I need to develop that. I have to organize that as work in order to not suck at it. But I would do it no matter if I'm making a lot of money or no money, or if I'm using it just to put together a bunch of friends and have a beer and tell some good stories. To me, it's fun regardless, and it's one of the resources that I use when I'm traveling to network and to meet more people. So I can't really
Right.
call that work. But the question was, when you need to sit down and work in the computer, and it's scheduled, disciplined work, what percentage of your time is that?
Yeah, disciplined in quotation marks, of course, because I always struggle with that. Being your own boss, you have to, or being working for yourself, you are your own boss. And sometimes I'm not the most strict boss, especially when someone's like, "Oh, let's go to the bar tonight." I'm like, "Well, I was planning on working all night, but yeah, I should probably hang out a bit and have some drinks." So my friends joke with me that the book, The 4 Hour Work Week, he said, like, "Wow, that sounds like a lot for Scott," but it's because a lot of times I don't talk about work. I don't, like the stuff on Facebook and whatnot. Like, I'm not really talking about work so much. I'm talking about the fun stuff, like a lot of people do on Instagram or Facebook, right? So I do work. It's just I batch it. So I'll go for a few weeks without working at all, and then I'll work, um, you know, 14-hour days for a week and never set foot outside of my apartment. Pretty much. And so that kind of justifies the few weeks beforehand. So I would say if you had to split up the amount I work uh, over the year, As far as like how many hours per week, it would probably be something like 15 to 20 hours a week, averaged. But that'll go up now because this year I'm focusing on improving both my businesses, whereas the last couple of years I've been more focused on networking, partying, traveling, seeing the world, things like that. And so I've spent, maybe an average of 10 hours a week these last couple of years, but this year I'll be definitely at least doubling that.
I am more seasonal. So sometimes I decide to stay in a place for a few months, even if it's not going to be as much fun, like staying in Kiev for winter. So you're going to be covering in
I
ice
was just
for
in
months.
Budapest. I just got back
Yeah,
from Budapest. I
is
was there for a month.
yeah. So because then I know that it will keep me indoors and it will make me work a lot, and a lot will get done. And I again
Hmm.
do a lot, then roll some systems out of the door and make things work. And then I spend a few months working, traveling, in which I work, yes, maybe 12, 20 hours a week, uh, for 2, 3 months. But it's always seasonal for me, and so I usually think of it in terms of 2, 3 months at a time.
Hmm.
Um, so you're making money out of business online or business in the real world?
Well, I mean, I guess you could say both because the Safari thing is more of like a brick and mortar thing, but my partner handles stuff on the ground and I do everything remotely. I only go over there once every other year and spend some time and work with them in person. The web company, I guess you could do all virtually, and so that would be more online. But I haven't really done. I mean, I've kind of messed around with like affiliate marketing and things like that over the years. But now I'd say it's mostly just those two things, the web development and then the travel industry through the Safari and a few other partnerships that I have set up around the world.
Let's talk logistics just a little bit. I've rarely, or maybe I never asked anybody this question. What technology do you carry
Hmm.
when you're
Um,
traveling? What do you travel with?
my Note 5, I had a Galaxy S4 before, but it got stolen in Vietnam recently. But it's a nice upgrade, dual SIM, which is very useful. And I've got my new laptop, which is a Dell XPS 13, which is it's kind of like a MacBook, but it's a PC. I'm a PC guy. I just don't like Macs. Always been that way. I'll never change.
That's okay. Nobody's perfect.
And then I've got like a Bluetooth keyboard for it. I've got a Bluetooth mouse and a nice laptop bag, and just kind of like looking around here. So like and I've got like all the little knickknacks, USB drive and whatnot for that. Um, Other than that, I got my passport. I got a little Bluetooth headset from Plantronics. Got a new pair. I've got a couple pairs of headphones, the earbud headphones, and then the bigger ones for comfort. Um, and then other than that, I'll generally, it's lucky I have all the stuff laying out because I just got back last night and I'm unpacking right now. Uh, so I've got this. This is generally stuffed full right now, but it's a Kelty 44-liter backpack. That's my main traveling backpack. So I'll go on trips up to 5 months with just a 44-liter backpack and my laptop bag. And other than that, just pack some clothes. So I prefer wool clothing because it's antimicrobial, dries quick, wicks away sweat. So I'll have wool socks, wool underwear, wool shirts, even like wool jacket and everything. I'll get it. It costs a little bit more, but it's worth it as far as comfort on the road. It lasts a long time and it travels very well. And generally, I'll have a pair of flip flops if I'm going somewhere warm, a pair of minimalist shoes with a very small sole for walking around. And let's see what else. I guess that's the major stuff, really. Just the clothes and my technology.
What kind of minimalist shoes do you use?
1 second. It's nice you're doing video because I can just kind of pull everything out. So I've got these, which are the Innovate two 40s, I believe. And they're all, it's a mesh. You can see it's foldable, very small sole, a 3 millimeter sole, I believe, or maybe these ones are 6. But very good for everything except for rain, because if it rains, it'll go through this mesh sole on top. But for everything other than that, it's great. And even if it does rain, they dry quickly. I have minimalist sandals as well. And those are really small and tiny. Whereas before I had these like thick sandals, and that doesn't work. And I can't wear flip-flops because I don't find them comfortable. Other than that, I've got a Bluetooth speaker that I use. It's Logitech, I believe. And yeah, and that's about it. I mean, I'm actually going to write a blog post on my blog. I mean, you'll be linking to it in this post.
Yes.
We'll see if I get it up before then. I want to actually write about all the stuff that I use because I've kind of perfected my system over the last 15 years. For me, of course, but I think that a lot of people could find some tips in there.
We always use that kind of information, but I like to see, in practice how people use their stuff. So that's why I like to see, okay, what kind of computer? So do you use an iPad? What kind of iPad?
I'm very, very meticulous about getting the most out of things. And so if I get something, I'm going to buy high quality and I want to keep it for a long time until it breaks or until I have to upgrade. Like this laptop, I just got it after using my other laptop for 6 years. So I buy the best and I want to keep it for a long time and I want to get used to it and then have it forever. Other than that, like it's yeah, that's pretty much like my go-to bag. I've got a toiletry bag too, and a few things in there. Like I got my Thai salt stick that I can use in cold and mild weather in place of deodorant. It's just a piece of salt, and if you rub it on after you take a shower, it lasts for about 24 hours and kills the bacteria that causes odor. It's not an antiperspirant, but it is a deodorant. I've used that for about 7 years.
Interesting. Yes. Send me the info about that. I'll post this
Yeah,
link.
yeah.
I'll post
Will
the
do.
link to that.
Now, there's a lot of little things that I've just found through traveling and through talking with travelers and just research over the past decade plus. And so now, like my kit is pretty good. And over the time, I've also gone more and more minimalist as far as I don't try to like overdo it. And some people are like, yeah, I got like a 13-liter small backpack and a vest, and that's all I'm going with for a few months. And I'm like, yeah, I do like to have the comfort factor, but then there's I could say that I do wear the same clothes often, so that's why I'll have like a lot of like black t-shirts and like one pair of jeans and stuff like that. But 95% of the time, I don't feel like I'm missing out. Like sometimes I'll be like, oh, I wish I had a nicer pair of shoes. If I really want them, I'll just go buy them. Or sometimes I'll be like, oh, I wish I had a different colored button up because I only have one button up and I just wore it yesterday and some of the same people will be at the next event and little things like that,
People meet us the first time, they may think, wow, he has a nice shirt. Then the second time they meet us, they say, oh, that's cool, he has a different shirt. Then the third time they meet us, oh, first shirt again. That's it.
A buddy of mine, Benny Lewis, Benny the Irish Polyglot, he runs fluentin3months.com, which is the most viewed language learning website on the internet. And he, or should I say, maybe the most viewed personal language learning site on the internet, because I don't know about like Pimsleur and stuff like that. But he, for 12 years or so, traveled completely independent. He had one big suitcase. It was a big suitcase too. I mean, like it was heavy, it was big, must have weighed 50, 60 pounds. Quite a bit of heft, at least 25 kg. And so he had a specific wardrobe. He had like the same 5 t-shirts. So like he would put all these pictures on his blog and everything, and he was always in the same shirts every single time. He had the shirt with like the tuxedo design on it, and he called that his classy shirt, and he basically just had like a bunch of t-shirts and then some other knickknacks. And so you would always see the same shirts over and over again in his posts on his website. I should say he's still doing the website and everything, but he, for the first time in a long time, is based in New York for the year. He's releasing a few new products. He has a fiance. He's going to get married in December. So he's switching to a little bit more of a should we say, sedentary lifestyle than he has been in the past. But yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because like I believe, kind of made him, let's say, upscale his wardrobe a bit. I think she got sick of the tuxedo T-shirt, and it's and my favorite, the shirt that said "cunning linguist."
Yeah, sometimes you need someone else to domesticate us a little bit, and sometimes it doesn't happen. I really like a song by Johnny Cash in which he says that he wakes up on the Sunday and then he says something like, "And I put my cleanest dirty shirt and go out."
Hey,
And
we've all
yeah,
been there when
yeah,
everything's dirty and you take out the shirts, you just smell them. You're just
yeah.
like, which one can I wear in public without
Yeah.
just grossing out everyone, including myself?
My solution is to have when I start a trip, I start with a black. I bring a black jacket, either
Mhm.
leather or a blazer, but black or very close to black, and I bring one black business shirt, button up, and then I bring like two black t-shirts and black pants,
Mm.
and one, so everything black because
Black's great.
you you can
The
get
color
in
of the
into any
season every
situation.
season,
Yeah,
and
you
it's slimming.
yeah, it's easy to take care of and easy to replace. Also, you don't spend much to replace that, and then the rest I buy along the way. You know, I have a friend that I interviewed him for another podcast here. He said that he did one of his trips. He went with his toothbrush in one pocket and a tube of toothpaste on the other pocket and his passport. That's how he brought to Europe once, or something like it.
There was actually, since you mentioned that, there's a cool, and I've actually recommended this a few times to people to show how minimalist you can get. Not quite that much, but it was sponsored by Scotty Vest, which makes the shirts and the jackets and stuff with all the pockets in them. And it was by Ralph Potts, who wrote the book Vagabonding, which is a pretty well-known book for a lot of people that spend a lot of time on the road for work or travel. And he was sponsored by Scotty Vest, and he basically went to something like a dozen countries over 6 or 8 weeks. All he had on him was his vest. So he had some like toothpaste. He had some deodorant. He had like an extra pair of underwear, and he did a video account of the whole trip and how he got through things, and like washing in the shower. He'd wear his clothes in the shower, and then he'd soap up and like soap his clothing too, and then twist it out, roll it in a towel to make it extra dry,
Uh,
and the next morning it'd be dry. And so it
uh,
just kind of cool. Like I learned some stuff from there too.
I want to make a specific video one day about things that you don't need to bring to a different country because you can improvise.
Mm.
Like people go through painful processes at TSA and and other airport security to bring their pocket knife. But you can buy a pocket knife in every country.
Right.
You don't need to bring a pocket knife. You make your life easier. Then you don't need to check in anything. But I want to make a specific blog about how do you make a weapon? How do you make a camping stove? It's tough to travel with camping stoves because you have to carry fuel. But right
Yeah,
now,
that's
right
tough to travel.
right now, for example, I have been looking online for for systems of camping stoves.
Mm.
And I did this one with two beer cans. And so far is the best camping stove for cooking that I
Really?
had. I had another one that
Huh.
I post on Facebook that will be part of this video, which is great for warming up the place and to keep the mosquitoes away. Which is a different one in a
Mm.
can where I put citronella wax and paper and it's perfect. Nice to warm up the tent if it's too cold, and if it is summer, it will keep the mosquitoes away from you.
Mm.
But this is definitely the best camping stove I ever had. Uh,
Huh.
how you use
Interesting.
it? Yeah, you just you have to. Of course, there are different. instructions on the internet and you need to try a method or two. This is my third stove, and you put a coin on it, in the middle, and it's simple, and you can
Huh.
cook, and you can cook on this very well. Uh, so I like to do things that you can get into a country, you build it, and you use it, and then you give it to someone and go back home. I'm not carrying expensive camping gear anymore. The tent, I just have one tent here and one tent in America, and I deal with it. Don't need to
Right.
carry too much.
Oh, I didn't answer your question, by the way, about how I afford
Yes, go ahead.
it. Just remember that.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's easy. Generally, traveling is cheaper than living in the States. And
That's
I'm going to
true.
try to write a blog post about that too. I just talked about that with somebody on Sunday.
Yeah, please
And
share with us, because that is something I noticed myself, and several people that I did podcasts with. They reached that same conclusion on their own. That when they calculate all together, rent, utilities, and the car insurance, and the phone service and the internet, when they really count everything together, they realize they can go nearly anywhere for less money than that. So if
yeah,
you,
with the exception of like Switzerland and Norway
I
and
would
like
I
places
would
like that.
say Scandinavia, Switzerland, the places that I know of. England is tough. England is expensive.
Mm.
It may be difficult to stay within a really tight budget. But I have friends that did it, so they say, oh yeah, no, I went to England. It was more expensive. It was like 20 euros a day. So
Right,
wow,
and,
that,
and
that's
I'm
the
not
most
talking summit.
expensive. Yeah.
Like some people thought, like, oh yeah, I could go to India and live on $6 a day. I'm talking about living nice, going out for drinks, like having good meals, having some takeaway also, but having good meals and like not impacting your lifestyle. Like I'm living just as good as I would if I was living in the States.
I like riding motorcycles, so I need to count, the cost of maintaining the bike, which if you do a lot of miles in roads that are not always great, your the maintenance cost will be higher. So
Hmm.
I spend about $1,000 a year in just in maintenance and service,
Right,
and I need to count the cost of gas, petrol in outside of America. Uh, and I need to count occasional expenses with, for example, if I leave a motorcycle in a country and I go back for several months, there will be storage costs
hmm,
and things like that. So, but even counting all of it together, it still costs less than renting an apartment in Miami and sitting there.
yeah.
It's incredible. And if you are in places like Eastern Europe or in Southeast Asia, then get ready to live very well on Social Security check, because you can do really really well in a place like Ukraine
Central
today.
America also,
Yeah,
Nicaragua,
yeah,
Honduras.
but in Ukraine today, with $600 a month, you will be living really well. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah. The average salary, like in Hungary,
yeah,
where I was just at, is 400.
yeah. In Ukraine, you can go out several times a week. You can drink beer and do occasional, going out on tours and things like that. Live in a nice apartment. Uh, I mean, really, really nice place for
Mm.
less than 600. Myself, because I got an apartment on the edge of town, uh, because I didn't care to be in the city center. I'm spending less than $200 a month with rent, and
Wow.
yeah, and that's for the entire apartment, internet, utilities, everything, and space for the bike. Uh, that's it. You go out, you have a really nice dinner for $3, $4, and you pay less than a
Yeah.
dollar for a beer at a bar. So everything is so cheap. It's just being home that costs a lot.
Right. Right. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's why I say most of the time it's cheap. Even places that you wouldn't even think is cheap, like Japan. You can live pretty inexpensively there, less expensive than the US.
Um, you spent some significant time in Japan, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. What did you
I
do
lived
there?
there, worked there, started a company there, studied there.
So you went there for like high school or college, or what did you do?
The first year of college, I was there, and then I
Okay.
went back every year just to hang out.
Hey Scott, so you have been in Africa, which in the minds of a lot of Americans means that you're in the middle of the jungle, and there are, baboons surrounding you or something like that, which I know doesn't match reality. But
Sometimes it does.
yeah, but what it is about, let's say Tanzania, for example, that I would see there but not see anywhere else, or what is particular about Africa that actually matches or exceeds our own stereotypes.
Well, it is an amazing place for wildlife, and there's a lot of animals there that you're not going to see anywhere else. In Tanzania, you've got the wildebeest migration, the great wildebeest migration, which also you can see in Kenya, but it's mostly happening in Tanzania. And that's where millions of wildebeest every year like are on a constant search for new uh, breeding grounds and also for food and water, and they just kind of go with the seasons around the Serengeti. And I mean, as far as Africa goes, I mean, everyone likes to talk about Africa as Africa, like you're talking about a country, but there's so many different countries, and each country has its own languages and cultures and foods and animals and geography. And so I've been to most of the countries in Northern Africa, Eastern Africa, Southern Africa. I still have yet to do most of Western Africa. And it's so different. I mean, also the difference between sub-Saharan Africa and then Saharan Africa is very different. Where you have a lot of the people, mostly like Arabic descent, a lot of Muslim areas in the north, and then in the south, it's a lot of Christians. I'd say, yeah, primarily Christians. Black Africans down there primarily, although there's a lot of like Indians and other people as well. So, and whites too when he when he gets south. And so going through all these countries, I mean, um, you notice right when you go over the border. I mean, like when I went from, especially like I was driving one time. I drove from London to South Africa doing a charity rally to raise money to help out an orphanage in Ethiopia.
No,
And
hold on a second. Say that again. You drove from London to South Africa?
yeah, I drove from London to Cape Town, 16,000
Wow.
miles. It took about 4 months.
Wow.
And so I did this with some friends, and we were raising money to help out an orphanage, and we also donated clothing along the way and did a few other stops. But the main goal was to make it with these two vehicles, and we're going to donate the vehicles at the end to a charity in South Africa. It was a big thing. We took over a year to put it together, and it took about 5 months to actually do it. And so we spent upwards of 2 months in the Sahara during summer because we were stuck for a little bit in Egypt because Sudan wouldn't let us in. Long story. And we eventually got into Sudan. We spent about a week there. But the difference of going from Sudan to Ethiopia was huge. All of a sudden, you got these mountains and green, lush forests everywhere, whereas Sudan was a lot of desert. And then from Ethiopia into Kenya, where it's very different because Ethiopia has always maintained its own culture. It's never really been fully conquered by any European power, and they have their own language and religion. And then you go into Kenya, which is more, it was ruled by the British for a while, and it's much more, I guess you say, anglicized as far as a lot of people speak English. And it's more familiar to us as a Westerner, just the way they do things, although still very much Africa. We would always say TIA, this is Africa, whenever something went wrong or whatnot. It's just a very popular phrase for people traveling there. And so, those three countries, you couldn't find any more difference if you tried. Like just they're right next to each other, but they're so different. Those three, and I mean, you can lump together some countries like Uganda and Tanzania and Kenya because they're all kind of ruled by the British for a while, British East Africa, um, and a lot of the countries in the East were once part of the colonial powers. But it 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 was really cool. You know, like all my travels, you find that people generally want the same thing everywhere in the world. We had a lot of problems with the cars, and we relied on the kindness of strangers more than once to help us out of a sticky situation. Um, you know, and most of the time, I'd say at least 99% of the time, people are good, and you know, trying to help you out. Like, you know, if you're in a bind, like they will help you out. Uh, no matter where you are in the world.
Yeah.
And so,
Let me
yeah,
interrupt you.
we had quite
Yeah,
yeah.
let me interrupt you to tell a story because it's right there. I was in a biker camp in Bulgaria, and there was this couple from England that they were riding back from Greece or something like that, and they saw online a message of this other biker that he got stuck in Tanzania, but not near any big city. He was in this small place, famous somehow but tiny place, and his bike, he got one of the suspension shocks damaged,
Mm.
and there was no hope of finding another one for a
Been there.
BMW motorcycle in that village. There was no way,
Or in the
and
country sometimes.
or maybe in the country. And so this guy read about it in on the internet on Horizons Unlimited or something like that, and and he had an extra because he replaced the shocks on his bike just a few weeks earlier, and he didn't throw it away. He had the old one
Mm.
on the cargo in his motorcycle. So and he told that it was some kind of a hostel, and he just asked around. He says, "Is anybody going to Tanzania?" And there was this guy going there backpacking. So he said, "Are you going close to this city?" And the guy said, "Yeah, it's one of the places I'll visit." I said, "All right, then please take this for for this guy." So he sent a message, said, "I'm giving the shock to this backpacker. He'll take it to you." And took in a couple weeks, the guy was in Tanzania and gave the part to the other biker that the first guy never met before. So he sent exactly what the other guy needed, uh, through a third party that neither of them knew,
Mm.
which I think it's one of the greatest examples of the power of social media, of how we can connect and help each other sometimes. That was a great example. So you were talking about the countries, and I thought, oh shit, yeah, that kind of thing happens over there. uh, and what else about the way to South Africa? How was that?
I mean, everything went wrong. So it was a fun, interesting adventure for sure. You know, we had many breakdowns. You know, kind of like you mentioned. You know, where we just wouldn't have the parts, or there wouldn't be anybody around that could fix it. We just had to like figure it out. We were attacked by bandits in Ethiopia at night, and we got out of that. We were stuck in Egypt for a month while Sudan wouldn't let us in, and we had to somehow convince the Sudanese government to let in two cars. Actually, it was three cars at that time and seven people, um, and that took just meeting people and making connections, and you know, in the end, it was like this former Sudanese lawyer now living in Aswan, Egypt, who's now a baker. His neighbor is friends with one of the guys at the consulate who knows somebody in Khartoum, and like it's just that, like it's just creating these networks of, and that's how you get things done, right? It's a handshake, you know, and it's meeting people in person. So we'd each have like different tasks to do during the day, and about like finding this paperwork or talking to this person, and it has to be done in person. Um, Same thing with like my company in Tanzania. A lot of stuff just has to be done in person. Like they're not really into the whole electronic transfers thing, you know. So it's a lot of paper. It's a lot of cash. It's very. It would be equivalent to maybe like 1997 here in the States, as far as like the uh, prevalence of being able to do stuff online
Yeah,
and easily, quickly.
97, there was no PayPal. Transferring from one bank to another was not that simple. You had to write a
Mhm.
check, and that's
Yeah, so
and that's
I'd say
only if the
it's late
check is
90s
in
right
the
there.
yes is within the same country. A few days ago, I had someone from Sweden do a transfer to me uh, from Virgin Islands to my account back in America, and I was thinking, oh fuck, this is going to take weeks. No, took 24 hours. He put that in the computer. 24 hours later, the money was available, and I thought, wow,
Yeah,
that was easy than it easier than transferring money between me and my ex-wife in Massachusetts, because we don't have any bank in common in America. She has accounts in banks that are not in Florida, and I have accounts in banks that are not in Massachusetts. So
PayPal, dude, PayPal.
yeah, so the other day I asked her, because I had to we still have business. We divorced, but we are still friends. But the other day I asked her, don't you have PayPal? Come on, like this is 2016. We need to have a way to just transfer easier.
Yeah.
Not like that. But in some things, there are some things that America goes slow. We are
Hmm.
we are on the edge, and we are ahead in some stuff. Uh, but in other things, it's like we don't learn. We still don't have a decent healthcare, which is
Right.
funny. It's pathetic, really.
Our internet speeds are not
Yeah,
up to
internet
Eastern
speeds, because
European standards, or
yeah,
definitely not like Korean standards.
yeah, internet is expensive and difficult to get in some
Mhm.
places. In other places, it's not. But then when you need to buy an exotic part for a computer, you just go down to the mall, and there will be an amazing store where you can
Right.
just choose, and or you can go online, and very soon a drone will bring the thing that you bought to your house, right? So in some aspects, we are so advanced, uh, but in others, it's America is such a paradox, and I think that
Yeah.
makes it more interesting when the paradox doesn't hurt you. But in many situations, people have trouble understanding how did you get to that situation? You know,
That's why
uh,
I like traveling, because you can see,
yeah,
what works great at home and
yeah,
what could be improved upon.
yeah. Don't you feel sometimes that, especially when it happened to me just a few days ago. A friend from Texas, he started talking about politics, and he said, like three or four things in a row. And I thought, Jesus Christ, like this is what century is this from? And but I didn't want, I didn't want to lose the friend. He's a nice guy. Otherwise, he's a very
We
cool
all have
guy
friends and family members like
that
that.
are like that, exactly. And I didn't want to lose the friend, so I was not talking, I was not saying anything. And at some point he asked my opinion. I said, man, you need to travel more. That's it. You just need to travel more, and you're going to see that it's not like you're saying in other countries. uh, just by looking and seeing what they have to deal with in some other countries makes you appreciate more the place you are from, but it also makes you more aware of the things that need to be fixed.
Yeah,
And
yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
definitely. So so you have been to Africa, to the continent. You have much more experience than I do on that, but I'll catch up. Just watch me. uh, and then and Asia, right? Japan to me is fascinating by how different it is. To me, it feels like every time I learn anything more about Japanese culture, it feels like this is the closest I can get to visiting another planet. It's not just a different culture; it's a different planet. So I'm very excited to go there. But my plan is to go to learn to improve cooking because I love to cook. And I think it would be fantastic to travel through Japan, like backpacking or maybe by motorcycle if they don't make it too difficult to bring a motorcycle there. Uh, but then visiting people and learning to cook with them.
Right.
Yeah, imagine 3 or 4 days, visiting a family and they teach you what they do, and you go shopping for food with them, and you go, and you learn the entire process. I think that would be fantastic, especially if you don't speak the language. You know, that makes it more
Always
fun.
makes things a little bit more interesting. Yeah.
Yes, it makes it more fun if you don't talk the language. Uh, so I'm imagining doing something like that. But is there any advice you have for me?
Well, I mean, like in 2014 and then again next month, I lead culinary tours, but it's more focused towards trying the food, not necessarily making it. Um, but I guess the biggest thing would just be do your research. Oh, nice, got your yeah, that's right. You're 6 hours ahead of me, 7 hours, something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah, very nice.
you cannot drink
Uh,
all day if you don't start in the morning.
True. So it's just research. Like I still, even for this trip, I researched the hell out of it, and because there's a lot of stuff I don't know about. Even having been there 11 times, I speak the language, got a lot of connections there, but there's new stuff popping up. There's stuff that I've just never even heard of, and so it pays to just go on the internet and check things out, ask people that have been there a lot, such as me. Um, Favorite food areas are probably like in the south around Fukuoka in Kyushu that has like it's known for good food, especially like ramen, really good ramen down there. Um, and Tokyo has everything. It's like New York City, like there's just wonderful restaurants, a lot of Michelin starred restaurants and every type of cuisine you can imagine. Um, there's definite regions of Japan that have their specialties, and there's tons of them. Every region is like, oh, we've got this thing, they've got these special noodles, or we've got this and this ramen, and so um, it really depends on where you choose to go to. Like what do you want to focus on? Do you want to focus on sushi? Do you want to focus on something else? It's like um, each region has a specialty, and so it's just up to like what you want to get into.
Talking about regional specialties, one of my friends said that the entire problem with the Middle East and Israel and all that is that they all believe they make the best falafel,
I've
and
heard
and,
that
and
too.
they will fight for that. That when you take out all the bullshit and everything that is said, it all comes down to falafel. They will not agree on it. So every place has its own, and same in Brazil. They say, oh, the the churrasco, the barbecue is better here. No, it's better there. They will never agree.
And kufta, like kafta, kufta, like it's said a little bit differently in every language, but like the meat with the herbs and spices, ground meat, and they make it into balls or like longer shapes, and then they you eat that. Like I remember even in Turkey, every region in Turkey is like we make the best kufta.
That's what I had today for lunch at a
Yeah.
Turkish restaurant here. You know, I
every
said
every place
I,
around there
I was
has
asking for
kufta or kafta.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked for something. They didn't have it, and I don't speak any Turkish. They didn't speak any English. My Russian was not good enough, so I just said do something. So I gave the money. Said do something.
He
He
was like,
got that.
ah.
He got that. And then he said, yeah, and what you are describing seems like what I had. And it
Mhm.
was this meat that then they put on the fire, and it had some
Yep. So that,
some vegetables and a rice that they fried. It was amazing. It was very good. Uh,
yeah. I've had some really good kufta slash
yeah.
kafta in all the countries I've been
I
to, like,
I
and
generally like Turkish food. Generally
oh
great.
yeah,
And you can feel the influence all the way from Bulgaria to Ukraine.
hmm
How easy it is to find, kebab and and some other
And
food.
all the way over to
Yeah,
Iran,
yeah,
everywhere in between. It's very popular, but especially around the Mediterranean region. Yeah.
yeah. And how is Europe for you?
I did the same thing you did. I got a spot in winter away from downtown to focus on work, and it was good. I mean, weather was not great, which is good for me because it made me stay inside and get stuff done. I'd been to Budapest 3 times before, but this is by far the longest I ever stayed there for a whole month, and made some connections. Went out every once in a while. Got a lot of work done. Had a really nice Airbnb there and a good spot. And yeah, I'll probably be going back there because I'm looking at getting my EU citizenship through Hungary, which I can do because I've got Hungarian ancestors. So need to spend a little bit more time there.
So, how is camping for you? Do you like it? Do you
Yeah.
like camping? Yeah. What was the craziest or more interesting places that you camped?
Oh, hmm. Interesting places. I guess everywhere. I mean, I've driven from London to Mongolia, driven from London to South Africa, um, and I've done extensive traveling in 85 countries or so. And so I'd say, hmm, wow, that's tough. I mean, like I could say some of my favorite countries: Thailand, Turkey, Japan. Um,
Hey, what
but
about camping in Japan? Was it generally fine? They don't complain that you were.
no, no, Japan's very open about that. I had a friend that actually he had never done any bike riding before, and he decided to get a bike. No knowledge about bike riding. He knew how to ride a bike, but he had never ridden one for a while. And he decided to do a trip from like where did he start? He started in Osaka. He met with us in Osaka, and he like went down to Kyushu and then back up to Tokyo. He like did thousands of kilometers, I think, on a bike with no experience. And he was camping a good amount of that. Like he would just find a park, set up a little tent in like a spot where people were going to see them, and then he would just do that. He said he wasn't really pestered at all. So they're very, very accommodating when it comes to that. Like you might have some, if like the cop walks by and sees you, and like you should be fine. Like just be, you know, you can always do the thing. Sorry, no Japanese, and then they'll just be like, ah. But like my camping wasn't that hardcore. I've camped for music festivals, and I've done some mountaineering in Japan. Uh, and there's definitely like a subset of people in Japan that loves their camping, and they've got all their titanium instruments and their like super light tents and stuff. They're really into that. But I've done a lot of camping. Like I had rooftop tents when I was doing the drives. The Africa drive, I had a tent right on top of my car, and so you just unfold that and climb up the ladder and sleep on top of your car. Important when there's dangerous animals around. And for the Mongolia thing, I just had like an ultralight tent, and sometimes it'd be too lazy and I'd sleep in the car. Sometimes we'd put the tent out, in the middle of the desert in Uzbekistan or something like that. Um, I've done Burningman. That's always an interesting camping
Oh,
experience.
I'm going for my first Burning Man this year.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
I'm still a virgin, but this year I'm going.
See you there. Yeah, it'll be my fourth year in a row.
Oh my, okay, I'll see you there.
Last year was particularly tough. There's 60-mile-an-hour winds that ended up blowing our entire camp to shreds. We had to start all over again. I didn't really even start having fun until the night of the fourth full day. Like it
Wow.
was just work, and my hands were all destroyed, and it was tough this last
How
year.
how long is the event? Like 4 days?
It's 8 days, but I was there for 11 days because I had early entry passes.
Hmm. Yeah,
The registration soon, so get on that.
exactly. I put that on my schedule, and
Okay.
I'll be on to
Those
get
tickets go
to get
fast. I
the
mean,
yes to
last
get
year
the low
I didn't
prices.
get
Yeah,
tickets.
yeah,
I had to go through friends to get tickets
yeah.
because I wasn't even able to get them in the general sales time.
Why you didn't try on the first day or?
Oh no, I
or
was there
how
the
long it
first
takes?
few seconds, but they changed the system recently where it doesn't matter as long as you're there. First 5 minutes is not the quickest ones to get the tickets. You're put into a queuing system.
Hmm.
And so if you're just randomly assigned the back of the queue, you're not going to get those tickets. It doesn't matter, if you're there in the first second or the first minute, you'll be thrown into a queue. Once the tickets are sold out, because they're selling about 40,000 at that time,
Uh-huh.
then they're just gone.
Oh,
But even if you don't get those tickets, it's fine because I didn't get tickets the last 2 years, but I got tickets eventually. There's a
uh-huh.
way to set it up where especially when the date approaches, a lot of people buy thinking they can go and then they're not able to, and so people
Uh-huh.
are trying to offload them then. But I have never paid more than the face value of the ticket. A
Okay.
lot of people scalp them on eBay and whatnot, which is very much frowned upon.
Uh-huh.
But I've had no problem just getting at value face tickets. You just post on Facebook, you ask friends.
Mm-hmm. So okay, so there is not a lot of speculation. It's okay.
Hmm.
All right. Okay. What? By the way, I never been to Burning Man, and so I'm thinking of going with the motorcycle and just bring my camping gear, and that's it.
How are you going to bring in water?
I don't know. I think I'll take yours.
You got to think about things like that. You have to bring everything you need in and everything you used out, including all the trash.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to bring all your food, all your water, your tent. You could do it really minimal like that, but in that case, you'd want to hook up with somebody and arrange for them to bring you water and other big supplies that you couldn't fit on your back or on the motorcycle,
Okay.
like water.
Okay. All right. I'll plan for
It's
that.
it's worth delving into it and researching and figuring out what it's all about because you don't want to get there and then be in a bad situation or make yourself a burden to others because everyone is
Mm-hmm.
responsible for bringing in what they need.
Is there anybody walking around with a camel loaded with water on top, or?
Nope, there's nowhere to buy water. You can buy ice and maybe melt that into water, but it's
Uh-huh.
expensive.
Uh-huh.
$5 a bag.
Uh-huh. All right. Well, there will be a lot of beer then.
That's another thing too. Beer is
Mm-hmm.
pretty heavy and takes up space, so
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing. It'd be hard pressed to bring it on a motorcycle.
Yeah. No, the motorcycle, there is no hope. You cannot bring a lot. Uh,
No, no, but like I said, you could do it on a motorcycle. You would just need. I've seen people do that, but you would need to hook up with somebody to bring in additional supplies and drop them off.
all right. Okay. I'll plan for that. I will. I will have to use my
It's a crazy
brains.
experience. It's definitely memorable, and it's definitely it's tough. It's not comfortable, but it's very memorable. And here I am going for a fourth time.
I know it will be. I know it will be very, very special. All right. Any other stories that you want to share with us before I close this?
Oh, there's you can
Uh,
find plenty more on my
yeah,
website at
sure.
scottbrills.com. I'm sure you'll have a link. It's Brills,
We'll
and
put the
then
link
my
here. Hmm.
safari company is pamojasafaris.com, Pamoja safaris.com. And if you're interested in safari, or you just have any questions or anything, just feel free to hit me up and be happy to help you out as much as I can. And yeah, other than that, to say my stories are there. I'll be better at writing this year. I write very sporadically on my blog,
Hmm.
but whenever I do, people love it, and so I'm really trying to go out and write a bit more. So be prepared for some more posts.
Cool, Scott. You're a great example. I think you inspire other people, and and I learn from you, and I'm hoping to meet you in person. If not before, it will be during Burning Man.
Right?
So,
Yeah.
looking forward to that and to talk to other badasses like you. Thank you so much for being here with us,
Thanks,
and
Milton.
and thank you for your support and everything.
Yeah, appreciate it. Good talking with you.
We hope you like this podcast as much as we like to produce it. This has been made possible by the efforts of dozens of volunteers, supporters, partners, and visionaries that are helping us build Voyager's World. Please visit our website, join us for free, and start participating.